This is a response to a video clip of a salesman by the name of Zach promoting his business called longevity.com. The focus of his video was to somehow assist people who claim they were unsuccessful maintaining some versions of the 80-10-10 diet so that you can be less narrow-minded. It's not possible to ascertain exactly what foods the dieters were actually shifting away from or why. Nonetheless, the speaker stalwartly denounces the 80-10-10 diet and similar exclusionary diets. So let us take a closer look at Zach promoting saturated fat, cholesterol, and his idea of an open-minded diet.
But in this video, I'm just going to discuss some of the ways in which you can transition out of eating that way and have a more broad-ranging perspective on diet without being so narrow-minded and orthorexic. There is a new term for an eating disorder. There's actually two new ones. Everyone's familiar with the term orthorexia.
But this term or concept has not been recognized by the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders or the American Psychiatric Association as a legitimate disorder. Succulent fruit is digested best by all members of the hominidae biological family, and fruit is inversely associated with digestive conditions caused by animal products, grains, or high fructose corns. Meanwhile, the normal cultural diets mixed with processed foods, foreign dairy, alcohol, and even meat traditionally maintain widespread nutritional deficiencies as well as, and more importantly, contribute to the rampant diseases of affluence, including obesity, cancer, heart disease, etc. So these are the real disorders.
That's the obsessive focus on eating exclusively healthy foods to the point where you keep restricting yourself so much that you're actually deficient in nutrients, essential factors, and also in some cases calories.
Like a slippery slope fallacy, you don't have to be deficient in nutrients while transitioning or maintaining a raw plant diet. If the raw plant diet is inconvenient or if you have a lack of rich soil or variety in the species of food available, incorporate multivitamins. Remember, after a long-term detox or a gradual change in diet, nutrients are generally absorbed more effectively, and that cooking also destroys most nutrients.
There's also something called selective eating disorder, which is when you eat from one or just a few narrow types of foods.
Just to be clear, when sufficient food is available, one can indeed be selective in eliminating those foods that are not digested as well. It starts with digestion. Most of the immune system, I've heard 70 or 80%, is the digestive system as the first line of defense to pathogens. The real diseases of affluence, cancer, coronary heart disease, gallstones, diabetes, Alzheimer's, etc., are associated with excess nutrients in addition to anti-nutrients. That's why they are termed diseases of excess or diseases of affluence. With a detox and a long-term experience on a healthy plant diet, one may sensitize oneself to those foods that are digested better and then stay detox. Why then would one retox after detoxing unless you still believe you can't integrate all necessary nutrients in a plant diet? One can easily retort to Zach that maybe he is the one suffering from what might be an as yet uncanonized eating disorder himself. Let's call it unselective eating disorder. Vegetarians are less likely than the general population to follow conventional religion. They are more diverse in political views and background, etc. So we're not talking about a narrow-minded group of people here. And not only do plant dieters restrict animal products, but also alcohol and smoking compared to the general population. So would you also say that these exclusionary dieters are more narrow-minded for that too?
People coming to me asking me about how to transition out of that way of eating.
Chapter 8, page 133 of the 80-10-10 diet book provides information about transitioning foods while modifying the diet. For those backlashing from the raw plant diet, they can simply retrace their diet modifications to resume the diets they spent most of their life consuming anyway.
They're actually acknowledging the damaging effects it's having on them.
Nowhere in the video does the speaker specify which foods in the raw 80-10-10 diet are unhealthy.
If humans were one diet species, we'd all be eating it just like horses eat hay and other herbaceous plants.
Actually, wild horses are as genetically diverse as humans. There's no reason to believe humans have more varied nutritional requirements than horses, or especially chimps, which are 2 to 3 times more genetically diverse than humans. A more relevant comparison would be to compare, I don't know why it skips over this option, but you compare the classes of foods that chimps eat and the health consequences with human diets, since chimps and humans both digest fruit best and share similar digestive and metabolic requirements. Some chimps even hunt like humans, but they also get sick consuming meat.
This have evolved in a unique way over across the whole span of the globe, eating different foods and thus genetically.
The unique way is cultural adaptation, in which humans adopted tools, in spite of the fact humans did not biologically adapt to be able to digest new food classes. The microevolutionary adaptations humans have made don't support the drastic differences in diets, but diseases of affluence do reflect the varied diets of human cultures. Humans are vastly different from a psychological perspective, but remarkably similar to each other in terms of biological adaptation. So vast differences in diet among human cultures is more a function of socio-illogical custom, not genetic instruction.
Resulted in different nutrient needs for unique body types, unique gland dominance.
Are you actually measuring glandular activity or gland mass as a basis for diet? Is anyone doing this? All humans around the world today are biologically quite similar despite our superficial differences. In fact, we are apparently 99.9% genetically identical. Most of the differences between us are psychological. Humans spurred by stimulus motives can use technology to go across the globe or even to another planet, but evolution is not directional, and they cannot choose to adopt tools that cause them to then adapt to the food they use the tools to procure and process. In spite of the fact they did not biologically adapt to new food classes, during the Ice Age in depleted habitat, there was an increased selective pressure for food in general, but not meat specifically.
And there's food that aren't processed enough, so that comes into play, like grains.
Okay, so here he's coming straight out and advocating for some processed foods and grains too. Don't know how that's going to help.
Read about it if we want to learn more about that. I don't recommend having tons of nuts and seeds, of course, because of the high amounts of polyunsaturated fats. And even then, I'd say go more towards coconuts because the saturated fats are more balanced and healthy.
The speaker is stating some vague claims of tons of nuts and seeds, but the 80-10-10 diet does not promote this.
Too many polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats, which can be damaging to the thyroid and other things of that nature.
Here's the research to the contrary. The evidence from epidemiological, clinical, and mechanistic studies is consistent in finding that the risk of coronary heart disease is reduced when saturated fatty acids are replaced with polyunsaturated fatty acids. The replacement of 1% of energy from saturated fatty acids with polyunsaturated fatty acids lowers LDL cholesterol and is likely to produce a reduction in coronary heart disease incidence of above 2 to 3%. Coconuts, seeds, and other nuts already have too much saturated fat anyway. If you really can't instantly tell the difference between digesting figs and pigs, then you haven't isolated those foods within the diets to contrast the difference long term. And in fact, low body mass index also correlates with decreased thyroid carcinoma. So how do you replace berries and lettuce with saturated fat to achieve this? Dietary patterns of fruits, raw vegetables, and mixed raw vegetables and fruits led to a reduced risk for all thyroid cancers, and similar figures were obtained for papillary thyroid cancers. A dietary pattern of fish and cooked vegetables led to an increased risk.
If you ever intend to go back to eating meat, which you don't have to, but certain people do have the metabolism where they need that.
There are no human variants that possess a metabolism where they need meat specifically. This is an existential fallacy. For humans, the difference between metabolic rates is pretty small, with most studies placing it at plus or minus 5% or less.
It include, some raw dairy of various types, probably some pasture-raised organic eggs from a local source. It can include all manner of different animal foods.
Is part of your idea of a vegetarian diet. Eggs are not vegetation. Including animal products provides balanced chances of increasing your risk of degenerative disease. Among participants who became diabetic during observation, consumption of 1 egg a day doubled their risk compared with less than 1 egg a week. Spence goes on to say diet is not just about fasting cholesterol, it is mainly about the postprandial effects of cholesterol, saturated fats, oxidative stress, and inflammation. So somehow all the other primates, which are generally healthier than humans, have excluded foreign dairy. Why now is the speaker recommending dairy?
Teeth problems, which is...
But tooth problems can be minimized by avoiding direct contact of citrus, particularly on the teeth. Avoid the dry, sticky, and complex carbohydrates which coat the teeth and contribute to tooth decay, and rinse with water after eating.
Orthorexic mindset where everything outside of your frame of reality is completely 100% toxic and cancer-causing, and what you do is perfect and the holiest and the most perfect way of doing things, and everyone else is wrong. That's pretty much what it comes across to everyone else.
It's not even about being right or wrong. It isn't a moral issue at all. If you want to consume saturated fat and cholesterol instead of simple carbohydrates and phytochemicals, that's your choice. But why, from a health perspective, advise others to do the same?
Fat and protein-rich foods are going to be more condensed in size.
Although those are more condensed in volume, this doesn't put less strain on the alimentary canal. The non-fibrous items such as meat pass slower, so the total transit time of all the meat consumed at a meal may be 3 days or more. Increasing intakes of fiber were not related in any way to abdominal distension.
Your guts are actually designed to eat more foods like that.
Our guts being designed, this denotes creationism, which is fine, if that's your religion. There is a common misconception that since humans have a shorter alimentary canal than like chimpanzees or gorillas, that they are somehow designed to eat meat. But co-evolving with fruit intake does not necessitate a longer alimentary canal, as fruit has relatively low fiber compared to most vegetation, and fruit contains relatively more soluble fiber as opposed to many of the starchy and high insoluble fiber foods consumed in larger quantities by chimps and gorillas.
Millions of years of evolution.
Now, the speaker is mixing creationism with evolution.
We were apes and we had the guts.
From the time that we were apes, humans are recognized by biologists today as in the great ape family, the hominidae biological family.
Look at the pot belly on a gorilla or a chimpanzee if you think that humans are exactly like apes. They're simply not. Anyways.
Nobody said otherwise. Humans are genetically 10 times more similar to chimps, however, than rats are to mice, to give you an idea. Next, as humans are specialized frugivores, digesting fruit better than any other type of food. Realize there is a universal trend within the primate order that the greater the mass of the primates, the higher the ratio of plant foods in the natural diet.
Greens, peppers, tomatoes, all these sort of very low calorie fruits and vegetables that are very fibrous help keep your digestive system bulked up.
The intestinal tract changes morphologically so that you adjust to a diet with higher fiber content that goes through fat, so that the intestinal wall will help support that with beneficial bacterial flora that extend the transit time, absorbing more of the nutrients along the way.
Beta-carotene, which in a great number of people is not converted readily to vitamin A in a group sufficient.
Okay, actually, this is a relatively rare among people with sufficient food available. I don't even know why the speaker brought this up, but alcohol consumption interferes with vitamin A conversion. Otherwise, vitamin A is generally obtained by eating carotenoids readily found in fruits and vegetables.
Then you're also going to be looking for foods that are rich in vitamin D3.
Vitamin D is a hormone and synthesized with sunlight.
Starting to add in some of that cooked food. Fermented animal foods is a very big thing, such as yogurt, raw kefir, hard cheeses, and just getting that whole body ecology back into shape by doing these things.
Wow.
Another big factor, if there's been issues with libido, that has dropped.
This is vague because libido is a nebulous psychoanalytic concept related to anxiety, eros, and thanatos. Humans are already synthesize cholesterol. Diet-induced hypercholesterolemia actually impaired testicular steroidogenesis in mice. Additionally, adding 4% dietary cholesterol increased prostatic pathogenesis. Animal products have long been imagined to function as aphrodisiacs, such as monkey meat, rhinoceros horn, eggs, deer blood, tigers' penises, etc., or to treat health conditions like heart disease or impotence, etc. But according to the available research, these conditions are actually caused by red meat and dairy intake because of the reduced blood circulation. Even fish intake in particular is believed to be a powerful aphrodisiac. Aphrodisiac comes from the word Aphrodite. According to theogony, which is Greek polytheism, Aphrodite was born at sea after Kronos, who chopped off his father's genitals, threw them in the sea, and out popped Aphrodite. Today, there's still a large industry marketing aphrodisiacs, as you can see. We're not far from that.
Adding in cholesterol-rich foods like the eggs, looking at red meat when you get to a point where you might add that back.
Animals fed a high-fat diet were found to have a significantly increased cholesterol, triglycerides, blood glucose, mean arterial pressure, and visceral fat levels, although serum testosterone was actually decreased.
And it's very boosting to testosterone, gives you that readily available cholesterol, which is completely usable by the body in the manufacturing of hormones to really strengthen that endocrine system functioning. And then you also want to look at perhaps some herbs that will help bring those levels of libido, endocrine strength, and even help you in alleviating things like depression.
It's not making sense.